This tank has been overrun by algae, and today we're going to fix that by giving these puffers the home they deserve. The first thing we need to do is to clear out the old tank they'll be going in. I had this spare from my last video, and if you haven't seen that yet, I'll put a link up in the corner. I've been using this tank to store some of the plants I thought might come in handy for the new scape. So I cleared those out, removed some waste, and gave it a fresh layer of sand before draining it. I also made sure to scrape my edges so it looked nice from the front. To get started, I chose this piece of wood as my focal point. I also grabbed a few rocks that I needed to start chipping apart. With my rocks broken up and the sharp edges removed, I began to lay the groundwork for what might be one of my favourite scapes yet. My goal was to create a taller rock wall on both sides of the spiderwood, to try and make it seem like a shallow rocky pond. I tend to work from big to small, so here I am laying in the first largest rocks, and following that up with slightly smaller ones to block out the shape. So there we go. That's the big ones out the way. I think it looks pretty good, but we won't know until we see the full image. So I'm going to add in some of the smaller ones now. For this, you just want to find any points that feel a bit empty, and match a rock that adds to the shape, but doesn't cause it to feel overworked. You'll see me trying a few different options and layouts. Sometimes you can get lucky though, and it just falls into place. I did also have a few extra loose twigs that I had laying around from previous projects. It's a good idea to always keep these little pieces because you never know when they might come in handy. So what I'm doing here is trying to make the spiderwood feel a bit more involved in the scape and stop it from sticking out too much. So I glue a few pieces around the tank, and this does a great job at tying it all together and really reinforces that natural look. So to get this tank running, I'm going to need these two little gadgets here. The first thing I wanted was an air pump. Luckily with this one, it comes with all the tubing, non-return valves and air stones you'll need to get started. The reason I wanted this was to create plenty of gas conversion to keep the tank aerated and stop the water from just sitting. Without snails, it would get a hefty biofilm on the surface, so this stops all of that bad stuff. I also need a heater, so I have here this really compact 100-watt heater. It was a lot smaller than I expected, but honestly, for this tank, that's probably the best thing. It's got this little set button here, so you just look at the LED panel and you set the perfect temp. So I want to say a big thanks to Hygger for sending these out to me. If you are interested in them, I've got a link in my description so you can check out their lovely range of products. And if you do use code Husky, you'll get a nice 10% off of all of your purchases. That being said, let's get it all in the tank. Now, I've sped this up for your convenience, but it really was quite easy. I just kind of tucked it behind this rock so you didn't really see it too much. And then for your non-return valves, you just want to make sure that you cut a bit off the end, check the direction of flow, and off you go. It's pretty simple. So now is when I'm going to start filling up the tank. I just did this with cold water. It doesn't really matter what you do it with. I gave it a little wipe down just to make sure I could see it. And now we can officially mark this tank alive. To kick off the first day, I wanted to get some plants into the tank. I had a few Anubias, so I just kind of jammed those into the rocks and the gaps that I could find. It turned out I actually had a lot of Anubias, but I won't complain because it's going to give us a very full look. It was a mixed bunch of Congensis, a few Nanas, and a Nana Bonsai in the middle. It did really give me that full look and provided plenty of shelter for all of the puffers. I then also added a small Syngonian Pixie at the back just to, add a bit of variation. I had to add a few extra rocks to the center to help it feel a bit more cohesive, and I also took this time to add a few creeping plants. This one I'm using is called hydrocotyle. It should grow in really nicely. I then went around and added lots of smaller stones around the rocks to try and blend everything together. Finally, I went on a bit of a mad one and planted a little bit more hydrocotyle and my absolute favourite, some liliopsis. These should grow around the rocks and eventually grow through the sand to make a nice carpet. Because, we all love carpets. Nothing really happened on day 5 because I didn't really have any real livestock in there. But I did follow a tiny snail around for a few hours, so that's great, I guess. So this is where the puffers have been hiding for a little while. It looks awful, it's something to do with the light being a bit too bright. But they've been in here for months now and it's completely safe, it just looks terrible. That being said, let's get them moved into the new tank. I just bagged them up and floated them for a little while to help them adjust to any temp differences. While they settle, I took the time to remove the rock that was holding down my spiderwood. So here we are, this is them going in the tank. Very cute. While we're on the subject of releases, I wanted to share a few designs that I have over available at Husky Prints. I've put this collection together to help fish keepers like us express themselves in a fun way. They're all drawn, printed, and pressed by me, so if you are interested, I've got a link down in the description. So I left the tank for about another 10 days, and I have to say they are settling in so well to their new home. They're very curious and playful with each other, and even me when I come to the glass. Although they're not typically shoaling fish, they do love moving around in little groups and then breaking off for some solo exploration. They move around so majestically, it almost looks like they don't even swim, they just sort of glide. But despite their cuteness, we have to remember they are predators and they are always on the hunt for their next victim. After about another week, I thought I'd try to film a bit of them feeding. They're very slow feeders and they never seem to be in a rush at all, but you can see this one here slurping up a little bloodworm. It's so adorable watching them take these little nibbles. You can also see this little guy here just picking away at the wood. I have no idea what he's looking for, but it's great to watch them. I did also catch one of the bigger ones asserting some dominance, which is really interesting to see how they have a natural pecking order. On day 30, I thought I'd give them a little treat and add in some ram's horns for them to hunt. I have a stupid amount of these in my tanks as I use them as glass cleaners. But I did soon feel quite bad, so I tried to hide them in the bush. I also noticed a lot of limescale from evaporation, so I gave that a little clean, but as you can see, I kept getting distracted by the puffers, so it took a bit longer than expected. But anyway, now it's time to introduce you to this little trio of Otocinclus catfish. These are great for dealing with some of the algae buildup we'll get from having a lack of snails. So for the first day or two, they'll be a little stressed, but you'll see they begin to settle in. I also thought I'd give it a little water change just to clear up some of the cloudiness. The ottos started to come out of their shell a smidge, so I thought I'd chuck in a little algae wafer for them to nibble on. And this did seem to cheer them up, but they did not seem to want the food. However, this puffer was pretty curious. This was a fun one for me. If you're a regular on this channel, you know I'm a little fiend for grass. So here we have Liliopsis maritiana, Novia zealanda, and Ericaulan Vietnam. On day 35, I came back into the office at about 5 p.m. and noticed the tank was getting loads of natural sunlight. Normally this would be a problem and cause algae issues, but it only seems to be for about 20 minutes as the sun sets. But I had to get some shots of the tank because, let's be real, it looks absolutely stunning. So as you can see, I have a problem with buying fish, so I'm adding more puffers. I also wanted to add something more eye-catching, so I chose these zebra danios, which work perfectly because they're very peaceful and they're fast enough to avoid any nipping from the puffers. It's clear to see how excited they are coming out of the shop tanks and coming into a proper tank, and evidently have a really bad case of the zoomies. They show together fairly closely, and I think they bring a lot of energy to what was a very slow community. And as you can see, they all seem to be getting along just fine. So here we are, 50 days in my pufferfish shallow ecosystem. I think it turned out really nice. Let me know what you think in the comments. And if you did enjoy this video, please leave a like and a subscribe. Take care.